welcome to an emergency episode here. I was not planning to go live today. Obviously, we do the post game every single night, but this is big news. I had to come on here and talk about this. Triston Casas is out for the season, a ruptured patella tendon. It is awful news. Prayers going out to Triston Casas. It's very unfortunate. Very unfortunate. You know, this is a guy who's shown a lot of potential over the last couple of years, a lot of promise, right? He's dealt with his, fair share of injuries over the last couple of years now. But when he's been on the field, he's shown a lot of promise. This is a guy who I think has the potential for 30 to 40 home run per year kind of power. Wherever, it's just terrible news. It's terrible news. But with a patella tendon rupture, you are looking probably around 6 to 12 months of recovery time. It's different from an ACL tear. I'll break that down in just a second, but there is absolutely no way he comes back this year. You're looking at next season at some point, whether that's the beginning of the year next year, maybe even the middle of the year. It's going to be interesting to see what the future of Triston Casas is going to be, with the Red Sox. But the question is, what do they do now? What is the next best option? Well, they have made a couple of moves here corresponding to Triston Casas going on the IL. He was put on the 10-day IL. He's eventually going to get transferred to the 60-day. But the Red Sox did make a move here, bringing up Abraham Toro. So let's get to what the Red Sox put out here. And as we can see, first baseman Triston Casas on the 10-day injured list with a left patellar tendon rupture. Abraham Toro getting called up to the Major League roster. And now, really quick, before I get to Abraham Toro, just explaining the difference here when it comes to the patella tendon. So, ACL, you've heard of those a lot, right? Guys tearing their ACL. That's a ligament, right? Ligaments connect bone to bone. When it comes to a tendon, they connect bone to muscle. So you are looking at a quicker recovery time, usually with a patella tendon, because there's simply just more blood flow going to that area. So it's not going to be as long as an ACL tear. Now, when it comes to the Red Sox here, right, bringing up Abraham Toro, remember they brought him in this past offseason. You're thinking, all right, just spring training invite, ends up being some depth. But this is why you make these moves. You can never be too sure, when it comes to the depth within the organization. Now, Abraham Toro, in his career, he's been a guy, I thought there was a lot of potential with him, go back, 4 or 5 years ago. But really, over the last couple of years, he hasn't really been able to amount to much. He was with the A's last year. Didn't really look all that great. Hit around 240 OPS, I believe was in the 600s. But with the Woo Sox so far this year, he has been hitting very well. Hitting .310, an .883 OPS overall, .403 on the on-base, slugging close to 500. So, last night when we were talking about options, reacting to the news, in case you're wondering how the heck did Triston Casas, rupture his patella tendon, in case you missed it, last night in the Red Sox game against the Twins, he was running to first base. Got tripped up a little bit on Ty France, who's the first baseman, and he just landed very awkwardly on his left foot. People were thinking at first it was the right because of the way, they thought he stepped on the bag awkwardly. But no, ended up being he actually firmly planted on the bag, and it was actually the left foot. And he just got caught up. He was in no man's land, and he just landed extremely awkwardly, landed on a flexed knee. When you're landing, the way, the awkward position, the way he landed with a flexed knee at his size with that much weight, I mean, that's a disaster. So just in case you're wondering how that happened, in case you're just waking up today. So back to Abraham Toro, this is a guy where I think it's safe to say, based off of the numbers that he's put up, you're looking at like a quadruple A kind of a player, right? A guy that's hit well in the minors, but whenever he comes up to the Major League roster, he just doesn't perform as well as you would think, right? If we were to go back to the numbers in his career, again, going back a little while ago, he's with the Astros, he went to the Mariners at one point. This is a guy where there's been upside with him. The metrics have looked good with him in the past. Now, if you go back to he had 9 games in Milwaukee, a very small sample size back in 23. He hit pretty well there. You go back to, I guess you could say, 60 games with Seattle back in 21. Hit 252, had a 328 on base. Not really too much, when it comes to the major league numbers. Now, last year with Oakland, like I said, he hit 240, 293 on base, a 350 on the slugging, and 87 WRC plus. That's not really going to get it done. But with Toro, he's a switch hitter, so that can go nicely with Romy Gonzalez. Romy Gonzalez is the right-handed bat. Toro can hit from both sides. I think at this point, when it comes to Abraham Toro, I think it's really like, okay, let's give him a shot. He's hit well at AAA this year. Let's see what he can do. If you're looking at the history with him, if you're looking at what he's been able to do at the major league level, hasn't been much. I wonder if this is just going to be a short-term kind of a thing, unless they can catch lightning in a bottle. Who knows? Maybe he could emerge here. We'll see. I never want to, wish, negativity on anyone, but I'm who knows what he ends up doing, but I'm not fully expecting the best from Toro. Now, last night when we were coming up with some immediate options, again, instant reaction last night, not fully thinking it through, needed to kind of sleep on it a little bit more. When I woke up today, I was thinking, Abraham Toro is in the minor leagues. He wasn't on the 40-man roster, so he got transferred to the 40-man roster here. So, yeah, last night I wasn't even thinking about it, right? I was thinking maybe, Nick Sogard could get called up, a guy that, he's a utility player. And then we were coming up with some other options. I was even thinking someone like Connor Wong could maybe get a game or two at first base here or there. Vaughn Grissom, obviously, this is a guy where you got him back in the Chris Sale trade last offseason. Hasn't really been able to, find his way with the Red Sox so far. Injuries, he did hit pretty well at the end of last season. A guy that's mostly played at second base. He's got some experience out in left field, but the Red Sox have been trying him out at first base at AAA so far. 4 games up to this point. So that's why I think they went with Toro here. Toro doesn't have a lot of experience at first base in his career. I think around 15 games. So, and I think just because of the way he's been hitting, he has, more experience at the major league level. So that's why I think they went with him. And I think they would like for Vaughn to just get more action at first base. So wouldn't be surprised if they turn to Vaughn Grissom at some point. We'll see what ends up happening with Toro. Another thing with Toro as well, he's surprisingly, like, you would think he's older, but he's still only 28 years old. So who knows? Maybe he can come out, some kind of a breakout performance. Again, he's been mostly a quadruple A kind of a guy at this point, but we'll see. Vaughn Grissom, a lot of people were wondering why he wasn't called up. I think it's really, he hasn't played at first base all that much. He needs more experience there, I think. Now, for me personally, I was talking last night about the possibility of Rafael Devers at first base. Again, right now, like, I will always say never. Right now, in the immediate future, I don't think Rafi will be an option there. This has been something that's been speculated on for a while now. Going into the offseason, people were thinking, okay, maybe they could go get Alex Bregman, which they did. Nolan Arenado was a possibility. You can move Rafi to DH or first base. And, Triston Casas was coming up in trade rumors. He was a name that popped up with the Mariners at one point. So you're thinking, okay, well, maybe the Red Sox could move Rafi over to first base. I've seen a split reaction on that. Some people hate the idea. Some people like the idea. I personally like the idea because I think, this is a guy who was, very prideful of playing at third base. But if you could upgrade at third and then you could maybe move into first, that's kind of a happy medium kind of a thing. Where you've seen a lot of third basemen move over to first base in the past. Look at Vlad Jr. Just played him recently, right? He was a third baseman coming up, moved over to first base. There's been a lot of examples. Albert Pujols, Miguel Cabrera, Ryan Zimmerman. Who else? I know there's another one out there. I'm going blank. Kevin Youkilis with the Red Sox, right? Many third basemen have moved over to first base. I think with Rafi, I think he can move around well enough to play there. He's got a good arm. I think he would fit well at first base personally. And I'm not going to say he'll be a Gold Glove first baseman by any means, but I think he could get the job done. That's just my opinion. I understand if people don't like the idea. Maybe they just want him to DH. But we'll see. Could this be the long-term play? If it is, it's not going to happen anytime soon. I would imagine the Red Sox would like for him to, take some ground balls at first base, right? Kind of work on it pregame for the next couple of weeks, few weeks. We don't even know if this is an option at this point. I'm just speculating here. Basically playing, fantasy baseball in my mind right now. So who knows if this is even an option? I don't know. If it were, it's not going to happen for a little while. All right. We'll see. You did see, Bryce Harper. Obviously, that's a much different example. I think we can all agree he is way more athletic than Rafi Devers, right? He basically just made that transition to first base from the outfield on the fly. I don't know. I don't know if that is even a possibility for Rafi Devers at this point. But if Rafi were to make that move at some point, that opens up the DH spot, and I think that opens up a lot of possibilities, right? I think that could be an opening here for Roman Anthony. This is in my opinion, the number one prospect in all of baseball. Roki Sasaki has that title as of right now. I don't think that counts. I'm thinking, for me, Roman Anthony, he's the number one prospect. But this could be an opening for him where he could share some time in the outfield, DH, kind of do some kind of a rotation, whatever it may be. People have been wondering, how do you fit Roman Anthony onto this roster, right? People have said, Seti, could be the odd man out. Roman, I think we can all agree, has the better bat than Seti. But why I like Seti in this lineup, I think he's a good guy for the 9 spot. He gives you speed, great defense in the outfield. Seti is a guy that gives you those little things, and especially at a premium position like center field. I like having Cedame Rafaela in the lineup. Yes, obviously Anthony is going to be an upgrade with the bat, but you got to remember, you're playing both sides of the ball. You're running the bases. It's not just the bat. You got to think about that stuff as well. Duran Duran's obviously not going anywhere. Wilyer Abreu's been solid this year. So to me, the way the easiest, well, I don't want to say the easiest because moving Rafi to first base isn't what I would say is a seamless kind of a move. I think we can all agree on that. But that could be a way to get Roman into this lineup. You just lost a big lefty bat in Triston Casas. Well, there you go. You're looking for a left-handed bat that can bring you some thump in the lineup, that can really give you some extension in the lineup. Roman Anthony is absolutely that guy. Don't forget, there is also Masataka Yoshida, who knows what he's even doing right now. He could be traveling, taking pictures of mountains for all we know. But listen, I love the bat of Masataka Yoshida. Even a couple of weeks into the season, I'm thinking, man, we're striking out a lot. I feel like we need to get some more contact. Yoshida is like the perfect answer for that. So lately on his rehab program, he's still not progressing with his throwing. Who knows what they want to do with that? Do they want to keep him on that program to get to the point where he can play in the outfield? Do they just ditch the idea if he can swing? Who knows? The shoulder could be something that could, I don't know, if it could be affecting his bat, affecting him on the swings. I'm not sure what the answer is to that. But if he can swing a bat, if he is good to go, then yeah. Massa absolutely could be an option to come back. He could be the DH. Rafi can go to first, and there you go. So that could be a way for him to get back into this lineup when it seems, at least at this point, almost impossible for him to get back into the lineup. We're talking about Roman Anthony, Marcelo Meyer getting called up, but then it's like, people wonder about Yoshida. Well, if you're going to be calling Roman up, what the heck do you even do with Yoshida at that point? So that could be an option. For me personally, if Rafi were to go to first base, I'm leaning towards Roman. Unfortunately, no offense to Massa, but the upside of Roman's bat, I think it outweighs Massa for me personally. I love Massa, but if I'm looking to reach the highest possible ceiling, I'm looking at Roman. That's just my opinion. But we'll have to see what ends up happening. But right now, the answer is Abraham Toro. Who knows? I mean, really, I think it's just a wait and see at this point. I mean, there's not really, there's no telling what could end up happening. Could he do well? Who knows? Does he just go back to being that quadruple A kind of a player that he has been? Yep, absolutely. If not him, if they end up going to something else, Vaughn Grissom, could he be the next man up at first base? I think they want him to get more experience at first base. I mean, the bright side is you do have Romy Gonzalez, who's been hitting well this year. He's been manning first base fine. Don't forget about Nick Sogard. He's a guy that can come up and definitely give you some versatility there. Again, I've mentioned it. Connor Wong, maybe can get a game or two. Don't forget about Yasmani Grandal. Yasmani Grandal, this is a guy where, he's been, one of the better catchers in the game for a long time, but, he's getting up there now. Could first base maybe be an option for Yasmani Grandal? I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. But that is what we have as of right now. In case you are just coming in, Triston Casas placed on the 10-day IL with a left patellar tendon rupture. He is definitely going to be out for the year. I know he's been put on the 10-day, but he will eventually get transferred to the 60-day. He is absolutely out for the whole season. He'll be back. I mean, honestly, I think he can end up missing the first couple of months of next year. Who knows what the plan with him ends up being. Who we're talking about the Red Sox here in May of 2025. What's the conversation going to be, going into opening day next year? Who knows what the roster is even looking like at that point. I don't know. I don't know what to think. There's a lot that can happen here. I've seen a lot of people already talking. I've seen people saying on Twitter, oh, we've seen the last of Triston Casas as a Red Sox. Well, I don't know. I think it's just way too early to even think of what could even happen at that point. A lot of things could happen, and he could definitely come back and just go right back to being the everyday first baseman. I don't know. I think it's way too early to say that. And if you're even getting, I don't even want to talk about that, because it's like, to me, the most important thing to talk about is the fact that this guy his knee just exploded. I mean, I think that should be the talking point, not, if we've seen the last of Casas as a Red Sox. I don't think that's the right conversation to have right now. You get to that down the road. But again, a lot of things are going to happen. We didn't even, a lot of people weren't even talking about Abraham Toro getting called up yesterday. I even just slipped on him, right? Because he wasn't on the 40-man. So, who knows? We don't know what can end up happening. We don't know what the situation is going to be. What I do know is that all my thoughts and prayers go out to Triston Casas, because that's a major injury. That's a long rehab. I mean, listen, I've had surgery on my hip before. I got a surgery to, clean up my left hip because I had a torn labrum in there, whatnot. His is by far a longer rehab than I had. Rehab is, I'm sure some of you here in the chat, you've had your own rehab, when it comes to an injury or whatnot. I mean, that, it takes time. That's going to take a long time. And I do know that the very beginning, after reading up on it from people's experiences, it's very tough in the beginning, right? Because it's very painful in the beginning when you first start your rehab. It's going to be a long road for him, man. And I wish nothing but the best for Triston Casas, man. Yeah, Phoenix in the chat. I had back surgery 5 years ago, still rehabbing. Yeah, man. It's tough. It's tough. And I feel terrible. But I wish nothing but the best. Whatever it may be, whatever capacity it may be, we will see Triston Casas again. And I'm excited for him to get back to the game of baseball. And I'm excited for him to have a speedy recovery. So, D-Rod in the chat. Anthony Rizzo drinking margaritas in Mexico. I mean, hey, Anthony Rizzo, could we give him a phone call? Let's bring Anthony Rizzo home. It's time to bring him on back. Remember, we traded him years ago. Could this be the return, the full circle of Anthony Rizzo finishing his career? Oh, what's guitar? $4.99 super chat. Really appreciate that, my friend. Thank you so much. Do appreciate that. Everyone, I am out of here. I just wanted to come on here for an emergency podcast. Big news. Triston Casas out for the year. Thoughts and prayers going out to him. Everyone, we'll be back here tonight for the post-game show. Don't forget to turn on notifications. Subscribe if you're new. If you are just finding us, hit the like button for us on the way out. And I'll see you later tonight.